Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please?
Covering both sides of the big issues with the analysis you trust on News Radio 1040 WHO.
The state of Iowa has banned the teaching of divisive concepts. That means, for example, if you happen to be white, you're just inherently racist. Can't teach that anymore. It's called critical race theory. And I am about to talk to a gentleman named Rob Crain. Rob has launched, along with the Reverend Richie Butler, an organization, an initiative called Together We Can. And it is meant to help heal racial divides in this country. Rob Crain on the Newsmaker line to talk to me about it this morning. Rob, welcome to Iowa Radio. Good morning.
Good morning, Jeff. Good to hear your voice.
It's great to talk with you, Rob. So, as you are trying, along with Reverend Butler, to heal racial divides in this country, do the concepts outlined in critical race theory help or hurt that effort?
Well, what's really become a bit confusing for a lot of folks is, what is critical race theory? We focus on the positives. We focus on what unites us is greater than what divides us. And critical race theory is defined and been defined differently, especially as the rhetoric over how we're going to educate our children, which there could not be a more sensitive subject, has come about. Critical race theory initially started 40 years ago and studied concepts such as redlining by banks, which made it difficult for African Americans to get loans back in the 1930s. Now it's come to mean different things, but ultimately what we're talking about here is what are we going to teach our children about the great history of our country when it comes to issues such as slavery? And that's a hard topic, but I thank you and others like you for bringing this discussion up because it's one that's not easy and one that we need to have.
So, Rob, let's talk about that specifically, because when I talk about critical race theory on the air, one of the pushbacks is, well, you don't want to teach about racism. In fact, there was actually a national commenter on MSNBC who incorrectly stated that in Iowa, we actually can't talk about now slavery, racism, that history would start like after 1970. That was actually said on national TV about Iowa's ban on divisive concepts. How do you talk about the racism in this country, Jim Crow, slavery, but still a young person comes out of that discussion wanting to be united with people of all color?
You bet. And man, that is a great question. And that is exactly the kind of question that we all need to be talking about. And look, we're all here and our children all here are a product of the 21st century. And none of us were around in 200 years ago when, slavery was still happening at the founding time of our country. And we need to appreciate and understand we're looking through the lens of history. And for our children, it needs to be in a positive discussion, one with grace. Our biggest asset in this country, the greatest country in the world, is the American people. And the American people have been through everything, and we lead on difficult subjects such as this one. And we come through it. We don't always do it prettiest. We don't always do it, but we do it. And for our children in the classroom, there does not need to be any assessment of guilt at all. In fact, it should be taught that, look, we're all here to study what happened in the past, and we're all here to learn from our history, and we're all here to learn how we make our country even better and how we do it together. And so it must be brought in a positive light, and that's what we do with Together We Dine and Together We Can. And it can be done. It's going to be a sensitive discussion, and localities, not the federal government, but this is going to be decided at the local levels on how we do this. And it has to be couched in one of, look, we're going to have difficult discussions, but we're going to be positive about it. And we're going to make our children aware of our history and teach them how to learn from all of our history.
Well, and Rob, I can't help but filter this kind of discussion through my own thoughts, which is I want to acknowledge that this country has had a troubled past, but I feel like our people are getting better. Like, I feel like this nation allows us as a people to get better on those kind of topics like discrimination. Can we teach that to our kids?
Absolutely. Our history in this country is, it's not perfect, but sometimes it's two steps forward, one step back. But it is a story of progress And, you listen to, historians like John Meacham, close friend with the Bush family. And he is Pulitzer Prize winner and has looked at Thomas Jefferson and a lot of the founding fathers. And, he talks about that progression, and he really is he and other historians have done a good job of helping me. How do we look at our history and do it in a positive way, even when there's some negative things there? And so, the 1960s saw in this country the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, the Fair Housing Act, and major steps in our country to bring about better equality. And it can be taught as we're making our steps. Look how we did it in the past. Can we do it better in the future? But we're doing positive things, and let's keep at it.
Rob Crain is co-founder of the organization Together We Can. Rob, thanks very much for really important comments this morning.